This interview is brought to you by our friends at Waggle. Waggle is a golf term, so their origin is obvious. But, like you and I, their roots extend well beyond the tee box. Waggle is rooted in early mornings on the water and late nights around the campfire, in lacing up the skates, and in casting a line. These hobbies and passions are what inspire their team daily to create apparel that makes you say, wow, this was made for me. Because, really, it was. Waggle's biggest sale of the year is live right now. Hats, polos, pants, shorts, jackets, flannels, socks, everything is 30% off. We pulled together a list of our all-time favorite products, so make sure you shop the link in the description.
There you have it. Also, I believe, speaking of Waggle, I think they announced this day they will have officially a golfer on the PGA Tour this year. Which I think they announced on their Twitter today. I can't remember the guy's name. I'm trying to look it up, but my X is crawling at the moment. So shout out to Waggle. They picked up, I believe it's their first professional PGA Tour golfer, which is
that's awesome.
Pretty sick. Chandler Phillips. Yeah. So pretty freaking awesome. Company that started right here in our backyard. Got my Waggle on today. You got your Waggle on today. So good stuff. SP10, right? I think is the promo code.
Yes, promo code SP10, getyourwaggleon.com. By the way, I've never listened to that because whenever I stream, I just play and I don't have headphones on because unless I'm talking to you, who joins me sometimes intermissions or guests and stuff. There's one point where Hoppy's going off and it just reminded me of this meme. Hold on. And also the Prof song. I don't know if you guys are into the Minnesota rapper. The way he read, he had such a rhythm. He had such a rhythm the way he was going through everything, and I just could not stop thinking of that. So
yeah. Well, that said, welcome in to another episode of Wildly Informed. Brett and Isha with as our friend Michael Russo would say, meaty episode today. Lots to talk about since we've been on break. I think since
Kowalski meaty episode.
Yeah, and is it before Christmas? I think since the last time we jumped on.
Yeah, we've been 3 weeks off, so it's almost a month.
Yeah, because I think there was a Quinn Hughes trade. We talked about the trade, and I think we took a week off, and then talked about Hughes again, and then we were off over the holidays. So happy to be back with you here. Potentially, if you're here tuning in live for a little break from what's going on in the world out there, we welcome you in. Stay safe. Horrible things going on just all over. It's tough times, but we're hoping that we can be a little bit of a cleanse for you, talking some hockey here for the next hour or so. Lots to get to, hockey headlines. We'll talk a little about Jake Middleton. And then I want to give a big shout out to all of the folks on X who sent me over some guys that you're interested in the Wild trading for. I think I had 75 responses to that tweet. So kind of went through, compiled a list of, I think it's about 7 or 8 of the most popular answers. We'll talk about some of those guys. What the Wild have available in trades, if we think they're going to be able to acquire anybody. Sounds like you have some insight as well on that. So should be a really fun show today. So not going to waste any time. We'll jump right into things. The World Juniors wrapped up since we last recorded. Sweden takes home the gold medal. I think was arguably one of the most dominant teams kind of start to finish. The U.S., Canada fall short. U.S. team not nearly as deep as previous years. An injury to Cole Hudson did not help things. Canada just snake bitten, couldn't figure things out.
Canada shot themselves in the foot. You miss 2 friggin' penalty shots with the same move. You deserve to lose the game. I was there.
Yeah. So I don't want so much to talk about player standouts from that. I mean, there's tons of prospect analysts and stuff who can give you that. I did want to talk about, I think, kind of the hot topic kind of locally here was just kind of how the event went as a whole. A lot of stuff on Twitter, especially from World Hockey Report, about the attendance and just different things there. So I wanted to get kind of, you have a unique take being you've been in Canada. Have you attended World Juniors in Canada as well?
Yeah.
So I think you just have kind of a unique perspective in that sense. And kind of, I mean, you went to some of the games here and just things that are different. I wanted to kind of get your opinions first, and then I'll kind of chime in on some of my takeaways from.
Yeah. So I'll just say the biggest difference off the hop is in Canada, and I'm not exaggerating when I say it's as important as Christmas for like even just like average Canadians who don't even watch like hockey, but like, for example, where I grew up, who will be like, oh yeah, I watch or cheer for the Canucks in playoffs. They'll sit down and have the games on in the background, or they'll know if like they're having the family for dinner to have World Juniors on in the background. So like it's just
their state hockey tournament in a way.
Yeah, no, totally. It's just on a different level. So having said that, like when I was in college, we hosted, I think it was 2017 or 18. And so obviously like Canada was in Vancouver, and on Vancouver Island, just a hour and a half, 2 hour ferry ride east is where Group B was, where like the American, Kazakh, I think like Slovak and like Finland might have been in that group too. No joke. Kazakhstan versus Switzerland sold out, right? Kazakhstan versus the States, all the, because of the rivalry, even back then between like Canada and the States, like completely sold out, and all the Canadians are rooting for Kazakhstan. They buy all their merch. All Kazakhstan's merch was sold out one game, and they lost 8-1 to the Americans, right? It was just like, it's just such a different vibe. Because people just want to, I don't know, get that ticket to say I went to World Juniors, or those games are usually a little bit cheaper. So, younger parents can like bring kids, kind of like, junior hockey. So I would say like those type of games and like the Group B smaller rink in Canada were more on the affordable side, more kind of like where the whole tournament.
I know like Canadian US dollar a little bit different, but like what was the cost to get into like a Kazakhstan versus Switzerland?
Probably like $30 to $50.
Okay.
And they sometimes if they didn't sell out like before the end of like the first period, you could get in like wicked, like 25, 30, but it's like 30 to 50 depending. And that was in like a 7,000 seat arena, so a little bit smaller than like Mariucci. And then in Vancouver though, I went and saw Canada versus Czechs in the preliminary rounds, and it was like the tickets were like $280. I went and saw US Germany preliminary rounds, $30 here at the X. I went and saw Canada Czechs in the quarterfinals, $35 at the X, right? At that point, they just needed to sell tickets here because their projections were just way off. I think they overestimated the local interest. I think the early pricing completely priced out the locals. And I think the IHF and just unfortunately for Minnesota right now, with Canada wanting to keep their money up north, they probably saw, oh, it's in Red Deer next year. Psh, well, we'll just go on home soil next year as well. So
yeah,
just a perfect storm. And I don't think Minnesota did anything necessarily wrong. Like it was fun going there. Like they put on a good show in rink, right? But it just wasn't the same because it wasn't like completely packed. Did meet Mark Bergevin and talk to him for a little bit, by the way, which was fun.
Yeah, I think you hit on a lot of the points that I kind of wanted to hit on. I think the first thing for me was like it was marketed a little bit locally, but like I don't think it was marketed nearly enough.
I think they just banked on, oh, it's Minnesota, like they're hockey crazy. They just know. Whereas I'm like, I just don't think the United States knows because it's been on NHL fucking Network.
That was me my next
And there's
point.
just not like, I don't know if NHL Network is holding it hostage in the States or if just like TV just is not interested, or maybe like the IHF is pricing like local out because TSN and that's another thing. TSN in Canada's had it as long as I can remember. Like
which is the equivalent for those that aren't versed in Canadian
ESPN
TV. That's their ESPN basically. And I think US wise, you have you're near the end of the NFL season, like fantasy football playoffs, college football, bowl games. Like, I think that's why you're seeing not a lot of the major networks pick it up. But I think to your point, like NHL Network is very hard to come by in cable packages. Like you have to have in most cases, like the very premium sports package on top of already astronomical. Like a lot of people don't even have cable anymore, nonetheless have NHL Network. So I think to that standpoint, like, you mentioned like, hey, at Christmas time or, the couple days after Christmas, people got on home in the background because they can. Like, I think, maybe not all around the US, but I think it's like, I'm surprised, especially in Minnesota. I know K-Fan picked up games locally on the radio.
Okay, that's awesome. That's awesome.
I think, or maybe just the US, just the US games.
Still,
I think, but like I'm really surprised. Like a Channel 45 who does like the
I was surprised.
Hockey, like somebody
I was surprised it wasn't on there. Yeah. And
So
maybe that's just the IHF being dicks and being like, well, this is how much you have to pay for it. And they're like, well,
right, exactly. Yeah.
fuck
So I
that.
don't,
Like,
yeah, I don't know the ins and outs of that costing. But I think like you look back, like the state tournament's popular because it's accessible, right? You can, kids can get in the door for 15 to 20 bucks, right? And when USA Hockey kind of first announced it, like my dad and I, like we'd planned to be like, hey, we want to go to a lot of games if we can. My dad ended up getting to go. He got the flu, but like we were looking like when they first announced these ticket packages, and it's like, hey, you can get this like whole event pass, and it's for the low price of like $1,800.
yeah.
And I was like that per person, like absolutely insane.
Well, and then Brett, then literally semifinal day, do you see that family from, or the father and son from Winnipeg? They literally went to 4 or 5 games that day. It was either the last day of the round robin, the first day of like quarterfinals and the elimination, and like that's what it was. First day of quarterfinals and like the one relegation game. And they literally hit every single one, just going back and forth. And they were said like it was $30 a game.
Yeah, but then you got to pay. I mean, then you're paying for parking, you're paying for food, concessions. Like for a family of 4, like on the onset, you're looking at a very, very expensive evening. Like I think I did the math, like the per ticket price of those games was like $120. That's more than a Wild game. Like the interest is not above the Minnesota Wild right now. So I thought that was an issue for me. And then like I think it might have been less than a month kind of before the event, my dad gets emails from USA Hockey, and I'm sure a lot of people and stuff enrolled with USA Hockey throughout the country got this too. But it's like a survey basically asking like, what would you pay for a semifinal, like quarterfinal if the US is in it, a semifinal? Like they were still gauging prices like a month out. Like to your point, like I don't think they had any clue as to what to charge for this. And I think the key is just to get those people in the door, like especially when you haven't hosted. I think the last time it was in the Twin Cities was in like the 80s. And then I think Thief River Falls up in northern Minnesota was kind of the smaller rink when Grand Forks was the host city. I think that was back in like 2004, somewhere around there. So like generate that interest so that maybe in the future you get more. But I think
honestly, they should have just done it like in one of the college towns and just like for those who are staying, because let's be honest, a lot of the college towns here have local kids anyways, and just given like free tickets to the college kids, or like at least like something a stupid deal to the sports alumni too, just to like at least get the butts in seats, right? A couple of really good comments here, by the way, from our friend Kramer saying World Junior should be free or at minimum a cheap one-time purchase service dedicated to the tourney, just like the Channel 45 would do for high school tourney. Yep, agreed. Every single family, kid, coach, parent, etc. that registered with USA Hockey this season should have gotten free access to the stream. Any World Junior game online missed opportunity. Or like, why isn't Flow Hockey getting involved with it? Maybe it's because like TSN is like, nope, sorry. Like,
well, the other thing I had read too, and I don't remember who had, because I had put a tweet out about like the issue with the pricing. Like on top of that, like there's a huge time of year for youth hockey tournaments. I don't know what it's like in Canada. I assume that they have a lot of youth tournaments going on too, but I know like every year right after Christmas, we had some sort of holiday tournament. Like
you have Brett, for every NFL fan who doesn't watch or doesn't follow hockey hardcore here, they don't like, they're just a hockey fan in Canada. So it's like, it doesn't even matter if like the parents had like, they'll get other people there. Right.
You're not getting the casual going out to a World Juniors game. And I think some of the other issues were like just the timing of the games a little bit. Like you had Tuesday games starting at 5:00, like people that are working, like can't make a 5:00 puck drop. Like it's just not possible. And then my other like sort of like mini gripe was like they advertise like if you buy these ticket bundles, like, you can get to all the games. But like to your point, like I went to the US and Germany. By the time I got to Truck Park, 5 minutes down the road from the X following the US game, the Canada-Czechia game at Mariucci was halfway through the first period.
Yeah.
If I wanted to go to that game, I'm probably missing half that game.
Yeah.
Like
that is pretty regular though. I know, and sometimes they'll do them like Red Deer and like Edmonton. So like you literally can't go to you can't go back and forth. You kind of have to go like pick one or the other until the like the quarterfinals. But yeah, college student tickets and a big price. See, that sucks too, because like at the end of the day, week of they were cheap as hell because they were just trying to get people in the door. And I will say like the American games were pretty well attended overall. But I'd say the Sweden
for most of them.
The Sweden Finland game too. But I went to the Czech Canada game. man, like it was sad how unattended it was. It was fun though, because there was like a few people from North Dakota who are clearly from Ontario, so they were like, I had a few Canadians behind me, but then everybody else was just USA hockey gear, or like sweaters or hoodies or whatever, and just rooting for the Czechs, obviously. Yeah. And then there was like one Czech group that like they were the only ones the Jumbotron could go to every time, so they just went to the same guy over and over again dancing, and it was like, yeah, it was a good. I will say this, all kind of like the negative and critique aside, fortunately or unfortunately, it was an awesome tournament. I would argue one of the best parity-wise in the last 10 years.
Yeah, like, and I think like especially for the medal rounds.
Well, even in the preliminaries, I'll say like there's obviously going to be some blowouts, but like there was only one team that didn't belong, and that was Denmark. And you know what they did to still put on a show? They were just like, fuck it, we'll be the most dirty team on the planet. Dude, their captain averaged like 4 to 5 penalties a game. Dude, it was like it got to a point where like they were only going for headshots, and as soon as they just even hit one, the refs were just sending them out. They're like, boys, like stop. So, from a viewing perspective, fun hockey regardless. Germany played better than I expected. Switzerland played way better than I expected. Latvia almost beat Canada again, pushing them into overtime. I would say
Slovakia had some really strong showings.
Exactly. And I would say the best 3 teams won in the order in which they should have won. I think Sweden was the best team. I thought the Czechs were the second best. I thought the Canadians were the third. And so I was like, there you go. Gold, silver, bronze. I thought the States and Finland were right after. It was kind of like Canada had Finland's number, Finland kind of the States' number. So,
yeah, I think, and then I had one more thing on tickets, and then we'll kind of wrap this up. I also saw, I cannot remember the user on X, but when I put out the tweet, someone had mentioned that there wasn't really any incentive for neither Minnesota Wild or Golden Gopher season ticket holders to like really buy tickets. Like there wasn't really any like discounts. Like the way he described it, I think was even something on the lines of like, it almost seemed like it was discouraged that season ticket holders like go to these games, which I thought was really odd, because I was reading, I think for like the Canada Red Deer is like the like first pre-sale for this event, we're going to like Red Deer and like Edmonton Oilers season ticket holders, which
but again, it's like, but it wasn't but that's maybe just misstep by the Minnesota Wild, because it's not like they had nothing to do with this, to the point where like I think there were like more volunteers than actual like Grand Casino employees there, because there were so many sections that had to be closed off because like we just literally didn't have any volunteers. It's Christmas time and whatever. So I will say shout out to all the volunteers who made that shit happen, because like I know there weren't a ton of people there, but even in the games that were more attended, like the US games, like concession lines weren't anything crazy. Like they were getting us our food and drink pretty quickly. And I don't know, like no one was discouraged to be there. Everyone seemed pretty like stoked. So shout out to everybody.
And I think the planners of the event on like the Minnesota side, like said they were pretty happy with how things went. So we'll see if Minnesota is in the mix ever again.
Low bar then if they're happy, but
again, it's like, but I think
they're in the mix again, man, do it in North Dakota. I'm serious. I want to go to that rink.
Well, like what I wonder is like they probably went about how maybe not quite as they expected, but if they learned a lot, we're like, hey, if we do this again, here are the things that we're going to change. Like we're going to do this for ticket prices. We're going to, we're going to have deals for youth teams or whatever. Like they'll find other ways, but so we'll see there. But overall, like to your point, like all the operations aside, like very good tournament, really fun. I think on the Minnesota Wild side, both Aaron Kiviharu and Adam Banach, I think looked solid. Like, were they the best players on their team? Probably not.
They were up there. Like they were key guys for sure.
Yeah. And Banach was just all over, like his passing on full display, like already has like NHL caliber speed. It's like just fun to see some of those guys. In Banach's case, like we'll talk about later, but I think like firmly moving himself into a trade piece that teams I think will be interested in, or if it's a player the Wild decide to keep down the road. But overall, really, really, really enjoyable tournament, I think, from a viewing perspective. And shout out to St. Paul. I think, some of the issues we had aside, I think, like to your point, when you were at the game, it was a good, it was a good experience. So moving on from the World Juniors, unless you have anything else you want to add.
No, I mean, I could go on and on and on. So you guys have probably heard enough. I streamed at least one game every day. And if I wasn't at the game, I did like sometimes two. So like I watched I literally, people were asking me like, when are you going to cover the Wild? I'm like, I'm not watching NHL. I don't give a fuck about the NHL right now. Like these 3 weeks of World Junior, that's all I care about as Z and Hoppy. And then poor listeners and fans, because all Z did was talk about World Juniors as well.
Yeah, I came down the nasty cold, so I was just like laying on the couch watching hockey like most of the days.
There you go. I mean, it is one of, if not the best tournament in sports. Like it's just,
it is a fun one for sure.
I said this, like there were some games that I was like I can't attest firsthand, but from what I've heard and read, some of these games were literally like cocaine personified, like just absolutely insane.
Yeah. Sticking with international, we won't spend too much time on this. We can always push it down the road further too, but Olympic rosters were announced finally for the rest of the nations here. Not a ton of like huge surprises, couple snubs, some newcomers, but just kind of based on kind of what you saw, whether it's US, Canada, some of the other teams, like any like real like surprises for you, like really notable snubs you think, like from a player perspective in any of the teams, anything like that?
Not really. Like there's, I mean, Canadians are going to be up in arms about anything, but it's like, and I always say this with like, especially with the men's best on best, World Juniors to an extent, but you can actually put together a team, I think on the junior level more so than with like the pros and the NHLers. But people are, a lot of Canadians are asking like, why wasn't Bedard on this team and why wasn't why wasn't Sam Bennett on this team? And I say, like, if this was 4 nations, Sam Bennett would probably be on this team and a skilled guy would be taken off. But because it's the IHF, because it's Olympics, because of the size of the ice, no, I don't. That probably has nothing to do with it. But, you know, just given that's the IHF, I don't think Canada has to go as heavy as they have to now. Proof of concept. We've seen it in like 4 nations. Or just like the way NHL teams build. So I'm perfectly fine with Canada's roster. Perfectly. I don't have any issues at all. I mean, I really hope they don't start Mr. Jordan Binnington. I hope maybe Logan Thompson, Darcy get the first 2 looks. Unfortunately, they are probably going to go with him because that was Canada's last international guy, right? So that scares the shit out of me. But other than that, the team's stacked. Yeah,
Binnington was the one, like, it's surprising based on his body of work from this season, but I think to your point, like given what he's done for you, you know, with the 4 nations, I think was he one of the goalies? I think for the previous Olympics, was he in that mix?
I think he was too young.
He might have been too young, but like given what he did at the, given what he did at the 4 nations, it's hard to kind of leave him home. But I think to your point, I think my guess is he'll end up being kind of the third man there. I would assume Logan Thompson is going to be their starter.
I'm going to say this right now. For an IHF tournament versus a NHL 4 nations, I'd rather have Bo Horvat as the extra guy than Sam Bennett, because he can at least do a little bit of both. Whereas
I love Bo Horvat.
Oh yeah, like just solid 2-way guy. You know what was crazy? In his draft year, his biggest knock was his skating and speed, and I would argue that's his best skill now as an NHLer. So just goes to show you can develop, right? Even into some things that people were critical of early. Yeah. So as far as Canada, I'm fine. I'm people up in arms about Drew Doughty as well. Like he's still
he bleeds Canadian colors. Man.
Yeah, like you're not leaving him off the team. And there was one guy who was like, in what world do you leave, or did you go with a guy in his mid to late 30s on the team over the young guy? And I was like, Sidney Crosby, like fuck off.
Yeah. I think I was interested to see if they'd maybe bring Matthew Schaefer with as kind of like almost like a learning experience, like maybe not playing, but like, hey, this guy's going to be a future on our blue line. But
the fact that there were conversations, I feel like they probably talked to him and were like, look, man, like you're going to be the future. Don't worry. Like you're at least in consideration. Like, I mean, Hockey Canada is so fucked they probably didn't do that, but like in my reality that someone at least reached out and was like, look, keep doing what you're doing. You will be the future.
Yeah. As I'm sure, and a similar conversation was probably had with Lane Hudson as well.
And probably his dad to tell him to shut the fuck up.
Yeah. Czechia is the next one you have on here. I think like the one kind of like notable thing for me here, I guess, would be that, you know, we know Czechia really likes David Spacek, but I was surprised that Spacek was on the team and that David Jiricek was not. Like you look at like the pecking order here in Minnesota, like the Wild just today, I think recalled Spacek, Jiricek up to the NHL. It's so confusing when they're both David and they're both Czech at the end. I'm going to interchange them probably 100 times while we're talking about this. But, and like Spacek, to his credit, he's been great.
Yep.
And in international events, like they love the way that he plays. And it's still like a wonder to me, like, yeah, he is really good at international tournaments. Where does that go when he comes back to North America? So like it's a whole nother like wild development thing. But I was a little surprised to see Jiricek not on there. We'll see if that maybe lights a fire under him and stuff. But like especially when you look at some of those other names on that list, like these are guys that are playing, over in Europe, and Jiricek's, played NHL game played Spacek they recalled today. Okay. See, I can't even keep them straight with recalls, but but I was a little surprised to see him not there, but at the same time, like I sort of get it, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, it probably came down to one or the other, and there was probably like one or two guys on the table who were like, let's go, made their case, and management was like, okay, we're gonna go with I was gonna say David, we're gonna go with Spacek.
Yeah. Go with David.
Other than this, I mean, I think actually Czech's goaltending is pretty underrated. Dostal, Vladar, both really, really good. I'm not super familiar with
Pamelka. He's been Utah's starter for like 2-3
but
years.
Like his stats, he's been
like middle of the road.
Okay, so NHL guys, right? So there you go. Yeah,
and I think Vladar's had a really good year. Dostal, I think, started off really good to start the year and then kind of faded, but
yeah, and like a mix of NHL forwards and then guys who play in the either domestic league over there or in one of the Euro leagues. And I love seeing some of the standouts. Like it was my favorite watching Russia in the Olympics. You'd be like, who the fuck is that guy? And why is he just dancing around through the Canadians, right? So I am excited to see some of these names that I'm not super familiar with. And then it is cool seeing some of like the guys I'm so stoked Palat is going to get an opportunity to play Olympic hockey one last time, right? A guy who just has been in the NHL for so long and does nothing but just like work. Apparently he's a fucking horse. And same with Hronek, who's someone who like, I didn't really follow him in Detroit much before he joined the Vancouver Canucks. And dude, Zeev Buim has had nothing but praise for Philip Hronek, saying that like he's one of the hardest workers, one of the...
And I think Hughes talked about him similarly, I think, correct? Yeah.
How he just go, and if he could, would play 50 minutes a night. So Zeev's like, it is so much fun playing with him and just like learning from him right now, which is awesome.
Yeah.
As a Canucks fan right now, seeing that like that's the only positive thing coming out of that fucking hellhole of a franchise.
For sure. Move along here.
Denmark, we'll see. Was
it Denmark?
Bjorkstrand's on them. Good old Nicholas Jensen still playing hockey.
Okay, no, I think it's Finland. Makes sense.
Finland actually, like, again, they're just gonna be tough to play against. Like they always. It's just so funny, even seeing like the NHLers that are there. It's like,
it's the most like Minnesota Wild roster of like
exactly
one really good player and then like 17 guys who played on the middle of the lineup on pretty much any no true bad players.
Aho will be a scoring threat. Lehkonen will be a scoring threat. Rantanen will be a scoring threat. Teravainen at this point is more just like solid.
Yeah. And then the rest just like a lot of like second and third line guys, and then a couple like little grinder fourth.
I hope Granlund just torches because he historically he always did an international play. So.
Yeah, he's been huge international.
And their defense is it's going to be interesting to see because they got like few good two-way guys and then a lot of puck movers, which we'll see. But and NHL goalies as well.
France, I think, has one active NHL player, Tessier. And then Belmar, who I think...
I had no idea he was still even playing pro hockey.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
But I think that's
he's the only one that I always like remembered was from France.
So they're going to get
absolutely destroyed.
Yeah.
I think they're in the US group. The US and Canada groups are so easy, man, because they just want them to get there. They just want them to get to the gold medal.
I have no further commentary on them.
Yeah,
Germany... I mean, they always, I feel like, despite their rosters, always put on a good performance.
Yeah, they're always sneaky good. Sneaky fun to play against, yeah.
A couple Minnesota ties in the team, obviously, with Nico Sturm, and then Parker Toomey, who was at the height of kind of Mankato's peak, was one of their best players. Latvia, I think the interesting one here is...
Teddy.
Who am I thinking of? They're bringing a guy that literally just played in the World Juniors, I believe.
Oh, interesting. That's pretty cool.
I think, right? Or is it? Or is it one of the other? I'm pretty sure.
I think you're right. Okay, quickly, Rodrigo Abels, dude, he was a draft pick for the Vancouver Canucks years ago. Like when I was in early college, okay, like 10, 11 years ago. Canucks never signed him. He went back to like Latvia, then went to like Sweden or whatever. And then Philly brought him in, and he's like an NHL player. He's played in the NHL in the last couple of years, played in the A little bit here as well. And like, they're actually using him. So just cool story. Cause I saw him and I was like, I remember that guy. And I was like, that's so crazy that like 10, 11 years later, he's in the NHL. But yeah, a few names on here. Gergensen, can't believe he's still playing.
Oh, there he is. He's a defenseman. Albert Smits is the guy that just played for them at the World Juniors. That's now on their Olympic roster. So that's pretty cool. Like, I don't know how often a like draft eligible has played in Olympics, but that's kind of cool. And he's like
he was good too. He was good.
Mm-hmm.
Slovakia, always, they're not quite Czech or like Finland, Sweden level. I think for a long time they were kind of, them and the Czechs were like kind of under Sweden, Finland. I would say like the Czechs are they've earned to be up a tier now, where Slovaks are still kind of better than the lower end of the teams in international play, but not quite in the top tier yet. But I don't know, it'll be interesting to see how some of these guys play. We got Levi playing.
Who will likely, I think, will probably be their starter, which is cool. And he was really,
if he has a good, like just a good tournament, then hopefully there's just some steam, some momentum coming back.
Yeah, and I believe he was really good from the World Championships this past spring. So, good there.
Sweden's fucking good.
Yeah, Sweden's going to be good. A lot of wild representation there. Obviously, like the notable here, like we talked about Jesper Wallstedt, whether or not we believed he warranted Olympic consideration. Really glad to see him in. With all the stuff going on with Allmark, not surprised to see him not here, but like a pretty overall solid roster here. Brodin, Gustafsson, Wallstedt, and of course Joel Eriksson Ek, like all made this team look pretty cool. Marcus Johansson sounds like he's maybe the last man cut. Could be next man up for an injury, which I'm not sure how long Gabriel Landeskog is going to be out. I haven't seen an update, but I know he had a pretty significant injury. So
Russo said he's pretty confident Johansson will have his phone ready.
Yeah. So,
but how cool is it where we said like, it's in a perfect world, in the beginning of the season, you can go back and check the tape. We were like, in a perfect world, they'll bring both. That just must mean like the Wild are doing really well, or the goalies are buzzing. There's going to be ups and downs, and look at this.
Yeah.
And funny enough, it's like Jacob Markstrom, who hasn't been the greatest this season, and he's coming and likely going to be the third string out of these two guys.
Yeah. Who do you think between Gus and Wallstedt is the starter?
I think Gus.
I think,
and
so.
I think fair enough. Like even though he's like 4 years younger than me, he's the veteran.
Yeah.
He's the veteran of the two. Not Markstrom, but the veteran of the two.
I'm interested to see, especially for like Sweden, Finland, the US, where like three good goalies are coming, if they'll kind of ride one, or if it'll be like, you lost, or playing the other guy, or like, hey, you won, but we're gonna play multiple and just kind of see. Like that's kind of the one thing I'm interested with how, if at all, teams will rotate, or how they'll kind of use their goalies.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, this solid team, one of the favorites, to be honest. They'll be in it right till the end.
Mm-hmm.
Switzerland, I think they'll be a team that'll be fun and sneaky tough to play against as well.
I think Kirill Kaprizov said that he's Switzerland his dark horse for the Olympics.
Okay.
When someone had asked him, so
they always have speed. It's just their two-way game, especially with the pros out in their domestic league, or I think a lot of the Swiss guys play in the German league as well, like the DEL. You can be quick, but the two-way is not even close to
goaltending. Will be interesting level for them. I think they're one of the few that, or Schmid, I think, he's one of their goalies, but kind of like Levi in Slovakia, like not so much like a top flight goaltender. US, probably the best team that they've ever put together in my lifetime.
I would say they're the favorite because they are like an A in goaltending, an A in defense, and an A in forwards, whereas Canada, A in forwards, A in defense. Binnington is there. I cannot give them an A. I just can't. He terrifies me.
Yeah, like this is, I think the big kind of omissions here were Adam Fox and Jason Robertson. For what it's worth, if I was when putting together this roster, I'd have taken Fox over Seth Jones. And I think I definitely would have taken Robertson probably over JT Miller or Vincent Trocheck. Like either of those two guys, I think could be left at home and you'd be fine. But like those are two big snubs. But I think overall,
Jones is the biggest one. The biggest, like, I don't know. He's fine, but that was the biggest surprise for me on the Americans.
Yeah, I would agree.
Just like with the forwards, I was like, you can make the argument as to why you want, these two guys off, like exactly what you said, Trocheck and Miller, the other two. I love JT Miller, even though this year, I will always be a JT Miller guy, even though he might have been the reason Vancouver's falling apart. I will still die on the JT Miller sword. So I will defend him, but Trocheck, I mean,
yeah. Well, one thing I'm excited for here now with Hughes being in Minnesota, playing with Brock Faber, and like I'd say overall, I think that pairings look pretty good. I'll probably do a deep dive into kind of what those two have done since Hughes' arrival, probably in next week's analytics agenda. So tune back in next week to hear me talk a little bit more about that. But curious if they're going to keep those two together or if it'll be what we saw at the Four Nations with Faber and Slavin as more of like a shutdown pair. And then Hughes is maybe with, I don't know, somebody else up at the top.
I feel like Billy Guerin was asked about it or like addressed it. And
they weren't sure yet, basically.
Yeah, he's like, I think he said like, we're obviously going to give it a look.
Right.
Because like Hines and him know what they're getting.
Exactly.
So, I think it more depends on how the other pairs shape out. If like we need to see something, we want to see a different look with the other pairs more, or if they're not going, then okay, well, because you put Hughes with anybody, and
and I think that's one thing too. I think especially for like U.S., Canada, Sweden, Finland, like the powerhouses. Like I think you'll see roster juggling. Like it's not going to be like here's the lineup in the first round robin game. It's not going to change
except for Crosby's line. That will stay the same.
Like there could be a couple of staple lines that stick together, but I think you'll see a lot of
in Sochi. You're telling me the coach there was not like, hey, we're gonna take Kunitz off just for today, and Crosby just went,
no,
we're not. Right. So. The only reason he's on this team is to play on my line, so fuck off.
All right. Well, we're 40 minutes in. We've gotten through the first two bullet points.
Yeah, that's a big show. So. Yeah, it's a big show. Well, I mean, let's be honest; those were the biggest bullet.
Yeah. These ones we'll blow through these pretty quickly, and then we'll get into Wild talk. Dean Evison, former bench boss of the Minnesota Wild, fired by his new team, the Columbus Blue Jackets, and has been already replaced by Rick Bowness through the end of this season.
How perfect and amazing is that, though?
Kind of I tweeted out this kind of a full circle moment with those two, if you remember from the little mini bench feud that those two had. A little ironic there. Yeah, there it is.
Dude, Rick Bowness, by the way, is one of my favorite coaches in NHL history. Like, he was an assistant coach for Vancouver during the glory years. Here we go. This is let's go. Yeah.
Okay. Come on over here.
Come on, let's go. Did you see? Oh, what's the name of that Russian account? The Russian hockey update account.
Hockey News Hub, right?
Yeah. So he tweeted early in the morning, North Americans or NHL fans are going to be shocked at who's on their way to Russia.
I was chalking this in the group chat with Seth and some of those.
Yeah.
guys.
And then so I was like, oh my God. Like, what's going on? And then as soon as that news hit, he commented, oh, you guys thought it was a player? DM'd Friedman. And I'm like, oh shit. Is Dino going to the KHL?
So I said before you even had the comment about, like, I didn't say it was a player kind of thing. Like, you guys think it's a player. Like, I said in the group chat, like, I bet you it's a coach. Like, I bet you it's like a Babcock or like a DeBoer. Like, because especially Gerard Gallant just had to leave his team.
Yeah, for health issues.
So I'm wondering if that team is going to bring in.
And Brett, old school, crazy mind game coaches thrive in Russia because they either scare the shit out of the North Americans and then connect with them because it's like, I'm your only other North American here. And then the Russians don't know what the fuck they're saying. So they're either just like, okay, guy, yell at me, whatever, I go play hockey, Like, I think Mike Keenan just stopped coaching recently. Like, the corpse of Mike Keenan has still been coaching in the KHL this last decade, right? Yeah. Bill Peters, right? He's in Russia. All these, like, if Torts wasn't America first, which, like, He's the most patriotic Team USA coach, I think, on the planet, and I fucking love him for it. If he wasn't just like, no, I only coach in America, like Torts would probably be there as well. But
Yeah.
Torts ain't going to Russia.
Yeah, so more to come there.
Love Bonus though. I'm so excited. He reminds me of like Bruce Boudreau, like the lovable old school coach who can get teams to buy in on the short term.
Yeah, I didn't like him as the coach of the Jets, but he did have, I think he was on TNT for a couple games throughout the last year or two and was always pretty complimentary of the Wild's game when they were on national TV. So got a little respect back from me.
He's a
but
beauty.
To me, like the weird thing is it kind of feels like a lateral move in terms of like stylistic between those two coaches, but we'll see how it works out for him. Columbus, like not out of things yet. We'll stick with them. They made a trade I think it was last week, 2 weeks ago, traded their former first round pick, Igor Chinnikov, to Pittsburgh. Got back a 2026 second, a 2027 third, and then Danton Heinen, who I believe Pittsburgh has since put on waivers and assigned to the AHL. But that was a pretty decent trade for both sides. I think Chinnikov's a good player, and I think a one case where a change of scenery might work out for him. We'll see. I've liked Pittsburgh's made kind of some savvy trades this year. I like taking a shot on that for a couple picks. So
didn't he not report though?
No, you did. You're thinking of Igor Zamula.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I was gonna say Chinnikov would have been a way bigger blow if he was like, yeah, actually, no.
Yeah, right. St. Louis Blues completed 2 extensions this week. One to Philip Broberg, $6 by $8 million, so pretty good offer sheet that I'm sure the Oilers would love a guy like that on their blue line right now. But he's been really solid for them. And then also extended Alexei Toropchenko, $2 by $2.5 million. Just kind of a true bottom sixer, like a Yakov Trenyan, Brendan Duhaime type of player. I actually like his game quite a bit. I think that's a pretty nice deal for them. So they're getting, despite their total shitstorm this year, still, locking in a couple key pieces. So we'll see if that, extending players like that, if that makes maybe some of the talk on Robert Thomas, Jordan Kyrou, some of those trades potentially cool. We'll see. Alex Wenberg, who may have been on the Wild's radar potentially as a trade target, he has extended in San Jose, 3 years, $6 million. The Canucks have extended someone called Linus Karlsson, 2 by 2.5. Never heard of that guy in my life, but happy for him.
Younger guy, been in the organization for a little while.
Sure.
He's, because of Canucks being decimated, he's an NHL player now.
Makes sense.
But they won't fucking call up Burnsville's finest, Joe LeBate. It just makes no sense. But anyways.
Right. Justus Onanen, backup goaltender for the Predators, signed a 2 by $1.25 million extension. Alexander Tessier, who we mentioned earlier on Team France, extends with Montreal, 2 by $2.5 million. He's recently got some looks, I think, at their top line and is playing well. Wild will see him, I think, on Tuesday next week. I think that's it for extensions. A couple other news around the league. Carolina Hurricanes shopping around Jesper Kotkaniemi, just hasn't been able to figure anything out. Has some money and term left, on his contract. So we'll see if they're able to get anything or if it ends up being like a cap dump scenario. The Canes are also going to be without backup goaltender Pyotr Kochetkov, likely done for the season after undergoing surgery for a lower body injury he's been dealing with since the start of the year. So all the best to him. Hopefully the Canes goaltending seems to kind of be in a very similar to Edmonton, like all the pieces are there and goaltenders have been hurt or there's been mostly injury, but where the Oilers just get bad goaltending. But we'll see if that impacts their rest of season. Then final 2 things here. Winter Classic for next year announced. Utah will face Colorado in Utah.
Finally, somewhere with fucking snow, man.
Yeah.
Oh my God. These Winter Classics not being anywhere near winter just pisses me off.
I think the way I look at it now is I don't really care about it anymore. It was really
I know, but
cool
it's because
when they first brought it, but I think now it's a really cool local event for that.
Yeah.
But
it would be cooler if they do it outside and there's the risk of snow, because how as shitty as the game was, how cool was the Capitals in Pittsburgh in the snow? And dude, the game was nuts. It was dirty, pond hockey, but Crosby's career almost ended because of shit that went down in that game.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily want to see it brought back because of those injuries, but it is, nobody cares now. Nobody cares at all. When HBO did their coverage of it too, it was unreal. It was something different. So it just, The first 3 for me, I actually cared, and I thought the matchups were really cool.
Oh, for sure. Early on, I definitely did.
Yeah, because they did like Detroit, I think Toronto, Philly, New York,
Boston, Chicago. It was
and then
it was pretty much all original 6 markets.
Which that outside
and
with the risk of snow. If there's not a risk of snow, I don't want it. In that region.
When the Wild hosted it, it was like I think the wind chill at puck drop was like 25 below. It was really fucking cold. And then final bit of news here before we get into Wild stuff. Both the AHL and the ECHL have agreed to new CBA agreements with the PHPA. So the ECHL was a little more rocky. I think the players came out with a statement basically like saying, hey, some of our working conditions are absolutely freaking awful, and we'd like to be treated like, basic human beings and professional athletes and stuff. So I think they hopefully got at least most of what they wanted in their new CBA. I haven't taken the time to review either of them.
Well, we'll go over if there's like soon-ish when there's a lull. I mean, there's probably not gonna be a lull soon, but like when there's a lull, because it's really interesting. Like the players were really divided. Some were like, we want to continue to take the stand because we don't believe it's going to get better. And some were like, I literally have to feed my family, so fuck it. Like I'll still play.
And I know like there was like, I think the Heartlanders came out and said like the player like, hey, we're pretty well taken care of. Like,
that's a really good organization. Like
it depended on your who you were playing for.
Oh, 100%. There's not like a standard. Yeah.
Which I think is essentially what
it's the same in junior hockey. Yep. Like you'll see some dumps in the CHL, then you'll see like, where my Victoria Royals played, or like the Calgary Hitman who played in the Saddle Dome, right? Like it's, depends where it is and how rich the owners are.
So, all right. Well, there you have it. That's your headlines the last couple of weeks. Spent a lot of time there. But now we'll get into probably what most of you are here for. Minnesota Wild talk. We're going to start off with Jake Middleton as part of our analytics agenda. And this came up, I believe Julia was in that chat, and there were some others. I think it was Michaela, I think, is I don't know her app, but that's like her name on there. I brought up like, hey, we didn't have a conversation about Jake Middleton. And I said, you know what? I got you. Because I think there are a lot of fans. I'm one of them that I think has been a little bit underwhelmed with Jake Middleton, especially as of late. But I think when we were talking about this podcast, when we were like kind of first doing the framework planning segments, I think this will be kind of a cool like callback. Like our original thing was kind of like the analytics versus the eye test. And I think this is a really, really good case study because I consider myself to be pretty well versed in both. And I think this is definitely a time where, more often than not, I'm on the analytics side of things. This time, I think I'm a little more on the eye test side of what I've seen. So, like, I was fully expecting when I was putting in some of these numbers for those watching you see on the screen right now, of just kind of like what his play driving metrics are. Like, he's not an offensive defenseman. Like, he's got 9 points in, I think, whatever we're at now, like 46, 47 games. Like, that's about what you expect from Jake Middleton. And physical, like tied with Spurgeon for the most hits on the blue line. Like we expect that, the blocks, like all of that's pretty expected. But like historically, he's been a guy that like unless playing next to Spurgeon, like typically his Corsi numbers, his XG share, high danger, all that stuff is usually like sub 50%. It's usually like the 46, 47, all about that stuff. But like when I dug into this, I was like, hey, he's got the like, he's got one of the lowest like 5v5 expected goals for numbers on the team, but like in the NHL, very middle of the road. Limiting chances okay, like his 5v5 expected goal share sitting at 50.14%, which for a third pair that's played some first and second pair throughout the year, like that's pretty solid. Giving up the third fewest high danger chances against per 60 on the blue line. I think that's behind Spurgeon and Brodin, which is pretty solid there. Corsi's down at 45.89%. But you can see that and you see a 50% expected goal share, meaning a lot of the shots coming from the perimeter, maybe getting blocked and stuff, things like that. So, and then the one area where I think he has been really rough is the penalty kill, where he's been the worst defenseman on the kill this year with 9.97 goals against per 60 minutes. So roughly doing the math there, that's like 9 goals every 30 kills. So 1 out of 3, basically you can expect Middleton to give up a goal on. And then expected goals against as well. Per 60 minutes, 10.24. That's third on the Wild, 106th out of 128 in the NHL among defensemen. I think my cutoff there was like 50 minutes of kill time this season. So that's one area where I think he could definitely improve, but I think that's less of a Middleton issue and more of a team issue. Like no one on the Wild is very good on the kill. I think Jared Spurgeon's expected goals against per 60 is the worst penalty kill stat in the league for defensemen. So I'm not fully like pointing at Jake Middleton saying he's the problem. It's a systematic issue. So this suggests like Middleton's in a pretty good shape. I think on the season he's like a -3, which I think is the worst on the team. But like -3 as a third pair defenseman like isn't horrible. So I really wanted to kind of look at like why does this like where's the disconnect here? I think a lot of it is recency biased. So you look at the last 10 games. So on the season, Middleton's number is very solid. Like I think if you take out like -3, but like positive high danger share, expected goal share in the last 10 games, that's mostly been the case except for the goaltending he's got more on the ice. Across the last 10 games, he's been outscored 12-3, 8-3 of that 5-on-5, and then 4 against on the kill. So I think that's where a lot of this is coming from. Like when Middleton's been on the ice, the Wild have been getting scored on. That's the reality. But you look at kind of the numbers underneath. So in those 10 games, 51.67 expected goal share. So actually higher than his season long. In his 5-on-5 minutes, his expected goals against total in those 10 games, 4.92. So we're talking about 3+ goals more than expected against the Wild with Middleton on the ice. I think their actual goals as well was like 5.6 or something, and they've only scored 3. So below expected on the finishing side of things. Like he's been a big culprit of like essentially bad luck. Like the Wild not scoring as much as they probably should, and other teams scoring more than they should. At times, has that he's been at fault for sure. I think you look at I think it was New Jersey the other night at the end of the second period. Him and Middleton or him and Foligno had a pretty big gaffe that led to the goal like 7 seconds before the end of the period and kind of derailed things from being a 1-1 game heading into the third and then ultimately lose 5-2. So like yes, he's been on that side of things. But you look on the year, only Foligno, Hartman, and Faber have a worse 5v5 on ice save percentage. Than what Middleton has this year at in all situations, which is 0.873. You look at like the Wild, like among the top of the NHL, like 0.929. So just for whatever reason, not making as many saves of Middleton on the ice. The numbers that we have publicly available suggest it's not that he's giving up more chances or worse, more dangerous chances than other defenders. It's just the goalies just aren't saving that puck for whatever reason. So in my last bit, just in these last 10 games, I think another important thing to point out, as we've talked about many times in this show, he's had four different, I think, defensive partners in the last 10 games, whether it's been Bogosian, Damon Hunt, David Jiricek, Matt Kierstead, and now tomorrow it might be David Spacek. So it could be his 5th in 11 games. Like that matters.
Yeah, he's been at his best with the Wild when he's had a regular defensive partner.
Yeah.
Let's just quickly get to because we had comments come in before the show even started about Middleton. I think the thumbnail got some people fired up, but everything is kind of in response to something or building on something you mentioned there. So let's start with our friend Urban. He's saying he's fucking injured, so tired of the negativity with the fan base. So he isn't performing. If you watch the games even half the time, bud, you'd see how many shots he blocks with same for Bogo. So Urban's pissed. He's not happy. But he'll listen to the show and be like, all right. But
I was basically like this is a long-winded way of saying is I agree. Like, I think we're being a little too hard on.
Well, I agree. I think injury is one of the biggest things too. I think yes, the defensive partner being a friggin' revolving door is definitely part of the mix as well. But I think he's just fucking banged up and he's a beast who plays through a lot of these injuries. We had another comment quickly. It was talking, is there any word on Eck? Still day to day, but Russo told me that he's injured on the right side, lower body injury right side, but the whole back of his left leg is black due to bruise. So like he is just banged up overall. And Russo even went as far as to say he's very, very certain that Hughes is banged up, which is crazy to think about how good he is right now injured. Imagine him healthy. So he's like, why do you think the team missed 17 shots in New Jersey? He's like, I think there's something off in that. Like everybody's just kind of hurt right now and nothing's going the way it's supposed to. But anyways, So there's hot takes saying, you want to hear a hot take? Spurgeon needs to go before Middleton. If we go into the first round against Dallas with no big D men, we might as well not go there whatsoever. And Kramer says, yeah, do you guys think mids bring some size and strength to Minnesota's back end? It's still lacking. And how do you replace that toughness if he's part of a package? So they do have a good point where it's like he is the biggest guy on the back end. I mean, Jurček may be as tall as him, but he ain't throwing the body around.
Right. And not in the lineup. I think him and Bogosian, I would imagine, are probably pretty
Bogosian too, yeah. Bogosian too.
But
Bogosian's just been in and out so much due to injury, I guess. No, but him and Bogosian for sure.
And this is pretty much exclusively coming from within the fan base. Like, I haven't really seen the coaches be too disappointed. Like, obviously, you're going to look, last 10 games, he's got a -9 goal differential. Like, that's probably a little bit of an issue. But again, I don't think it hasn't been a result of him playing poorly necessarily. So, I mean, he is what he is. Like, I think he's cast in his role now. Like I've always said, I think he's a good, probably number 5, number 6. Like, you're pretty happy with that, like second penalty kill. That's what he's been. Like, pretty fair contract. Like, is he elite? No, but he's what he is. And obviously, like, probably a pretty well-liked teammate and stuff and voice in that locker room.
He works super hard too, which, like, again, those are the little things that, like, fans don't really value. It's like, if he's, I don't even want to say good enough, just like good, not great, not bad, but good, and just works harder than some of the even guys who are great. Like, those are the ones you want in your room, right? Those are the ones that help you, knock on wood, get past the first fucking round of a playoff series.
Right. All right. Now we're going to go into Puck Your Opinions, where we're going to go over a bunch of trade targets that you, the fans, sent into the show.
I just want to say, Puck Your Opinion.
So,
this one's going to be fun. This one's going to be fun.
For sure. So mention this at the top. Big shouts to all of you on X who responded to my tweet asking for, I just said, I think basically my call was like, of players that are like reported or that you think could be available, which of them would be your favorite trade targets for the Wild? And we got about, I think it was somewhere in the realm of like 75 responses, conversations within that thread. So super big thanks to all of you who took the time to respond. It was interesting for me to kind of take a look at some of these guys, different things. So starting off with, I think, like, kind of the elephant in the room, it's like the Wild obviously just traded away some of their biggest assets to get Quinn Hughes. They traded away Marco Rossi, Zeev Buium, Liam Ogren, and
they traded their biggest 3 assets outside of a Jesper Wallstedt.
I could argue you could say biggest 4 because of that 2026 first. Like, that's probably next on the list.
True.
So they don't have those anymore. So now it's, what is likely left? I would say obviously the 2027 first or next year's first, obviously on the table. We talked about Banach at the top of the show. I think he's going to be in the mix. And then you have kind of your next flight of prospects. So your Charlie Stramels, Hunter Hates, David Spaceks, Riley Heights. I would throw Jurček into the mix, I think, as well. And then I wouldn't rule out, I wouldn't rule out Danila Yurov either. I think the caveat there would be the only way he is included is if you're getting back an established, bona fide top 6 center with term or some sort of extension, like after the trade happens.
Oh yeah. So for me, ranking, like, if we're gonna say, this is what I'll say: the only assets in the bunch that you've mentioned that I think are even close to equaling what the Wild just gave up are Jurček, the first, and Yurov. Stramel is better. I think Stramel's still a more juicy lottery ticket than Spacek and Height right now. That next year could change with any of those guys.
He's probably the highest floor prospect that the Wild have.
Yes,
he's gonna be a 3rd or 4th line center probably for a pretty long time.
And the first is just like, that's going to be included regardless. So like, it's like that's right. Going to have to be included. So having said that, guys, like, it's going to take something big to get the big fish. Like, if they're talking like O'Reilly, which we'll get into the names here, then okay, maybe you can swing it with even just like a roster player and 1 or 2 of the young. You could maybe swing it with what we're putting forth. On Fellowship of the Rink yesterday, it dropped this morning on YouTube and audio. Check it out. Russo was with myself and Joe Smith for like 40 minutes, and he gets into it more. But he is pretty dead set on the fact that if they're going to get a top center and a top center that will convince Quinn Hughes to stay, you know what I mean? Like someone who okay, it's worth mortgaging the current prospect pool we have. We got Judd Brackett. Hopefully in 2 years, even with late picks, he can get something back. That's a whole other conversation. But to get that piece that they're headhunting, not kind of, and I hate to say settling, but not going after, a settling guy, like I would say O'Reilly, but actually making that big splash, a splash that is going to maybe come out of left field, a splash to bring in someone who that's going to shock us like Quinn Hughes did. Wallstead is going to be the piece.
Yeah. And I think
Russo said it, and I was like, because you said it, I didn't have to say it first, but like, that is the only other piece like Zeev Buium that's going to get you that piece. Whether or not it's the right decision is like nobody knows, because our two goalies at this level may be so much more valuable than we ever could imagine going into the playoffs. 100% that could be it. And that could get you to win a Stanley Cup or get you to go deep. Could not having a top six center or just another bona fide top six piece also just not help you score enough? 100%. So it's one of those things where Russo mentioned this, and I agree with him in the sense that like if the Wild are going to go headhunting for that big piece, I think they're going to pretty much be like, okay, we at least have, not even at least, we have a top goaltender.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go for it.
Yeah. And I think a couple reasons for me that it makes sense. Now, would I do it? Probably not. Because I think, as we talked about before, I think being able to have two goalies come playoff time is huge. Like, what happens, like, if you do make that trade, and then all of a sudden Philip Gustafsson pulls a hamstring and has to miss 3 games? Like, and now it's Samuel Levi as your backup. Like, can you win with Levi?
I would imagine that if you make that trade, you're getting a backup who can play.
Right. But again, like, if Gus goes down, you're in a huge pickle. Like, no matter how good that roster's in front of you, where if you have Gus and Wallstedt, like, you feel pretty confident in both. So if one of them gets hurt, you feel good about the other one.
No, 100%. But throwing the argument right back at you, if you got that extra top, we're talking top guy,
right?
That could maybe carry you like Edmonton has carried their goalie. And again, not to that extreme, but you know what I mean? So, and again, it's one of those situations, man, where it's a really fun problem to have It's a really cool opportunity, I'll say, for the organization and for the fan bases. Cause like either way, there's going to be pros and cons, but either way, you're fucking putting this team, you're taking a step forward regardless. Yeah. And if that step forward is you're getting a top guy so that Quinn Hughes signs that goddamn contract, you'll bring in another. You're not going to be able to replace Wallstedt, but at least Wallstedt got you that piece
for sure. And I think that's the other thing, or two things for me that make Wallstedt like not quote unquote expendable, but I think he becomes an attractive piece because I think at this point you probably are selling high, like league wide. There's probably no like. Could he be this good? Like, could he be one of the truly elite top goalies in the league? Absolutely. But as I've talked about since I've started podcasting, goaltending is voodoo. Like, we have seen goaltenders who have been the best goalies in the world one year crash back to earth and be horrible the next. Like, it happens.
And then 4 years down the road, be a superstar really on another team, a la Dubnyk on Minnesota.
I mean, we've seen it with Philip Gustafsson. Like, he went from a Vezina candidate to like a bottom 10 goalie, and now he's popped back up to like probably a top 5 to 10 again this year.
And he might be an Olympic medalist in a few months, right?
So, like, in that sense, it's like if you're selling him at peak value, he's young, you have Gustafsson, and I think the other piece is like Quinn extension aside, like the time is now. Like they have like if they are, I think people agree. I think they're a top 6 forward away from being with the Dallases, the Colorados, the Tampa Bays of the league. Like they are one piece away. I think in years past we've often said like they're one piece away. I think this year they truly
Quinn
are.
Hughes changed everything. Like people in Minnesota know how good he is now. And Thomas, you're saying here like, and this is another great, and Russo gets into this a little bit more. I don't want to keep just repeating what he said. It really got me thinking a lot more about this team. You guys can listen to the full interview. I will share the link to the video after the show as well in a little bit here. He mentioned also that this isn't like a quick thing. Like it's not a rental. No. If push comes to shove, they'll wait another year and they'll make the trade in the summer. They'll make the trade at the start of next year. Before they make their final offer to Quinn Hughes, they will have made a trade, and they're hoping that it's a big name headhunter.
Or sign someone if they can somehow.
Yeah. So Thomas, I would say the fact that like we don't know and there's no inclination is a good thing, because we didn't think that Quinn Hughes was coming this way, and look at that. So like it's gonna be a top guy. Like, it's not going to be Kadri O'Reilly. It's going to be a top guy. I got to start just probably like playing friggin' NHL GM mode again, just to see what every team fucking has, right now, and be like, But the fact is we don't know. And the fact is they're going to try. Patience, the wrong word. They're just going to be smart with it. Now, could there be a rental that comes in just like where they don't have to give up mortgage anymore of the future, but make a hockey trade to bring in some scoring and maybe
is it Hartman a B level prospect and
a defenseman for for a scoring winger or something, as long as they can prove to Hughes with one more big move that we're going to be and Kaprizov now. I mean, you promised him with the contract, so they're delivering on that front. We talk so much about Hughes now, we forgot that they probably laid out a game plan for Kaprizov, and he's just like smiling in the corner, be like, I knew all this was going to happen, brother. But
I know all that now. I have Quinn Hughes too. So I think for sure. So to recap, the assets we think are on the board: 2027 first. We think for sure, like the next tier of prospects up, Yurov potentially in a bigger, huge deal. And then you have your Yurachek, Stramel, Height, Spacek, Haight. And then I think maybe roster player like Hartman's been the one name I've heard out there. But again, like if someone...
he's got, as far as roster player, he's the, I mean, Johansson might have some value, but at this point, it's like,
I don't think he wants to play. He has a full no move.
And then look, he's not signing with the Wild next year because he's going to cash in on another team, and bless his soul for what he's done this year. Kramer, the one thing I will say about Minnesota, though, it's like if there's any if there's any amateur scout that you are okay with not having first round picks for a couple years, it's freaking Judd Brackett, man. Like, this is where he goes to work. So, yeah, it's the next few years as far as drafting. It like optics wise, yes, it's going to be rough. I think management will acquire enough fourth, fifths, whatever they got to do, make some hockey trades during those drafts or leading up to those drafts to at least give Judd something to work with, and just know that, like, okay, like for the next 3 years, we're not focusing on drafting and developing, but hopefully, like, look at Washington. I don't know who the fuck is running Washington's like amateur scouting and whatnot and development, but they pop out a guy who plays in the NHL every few years. And it's like, you guys haven't, how many firsts have you given up, or how many just late firsts have you had? Firsts that like are basically seconds at this point.
Well,
so like,
and Judd Brackett's done the same. Like, he's found some really good value in the mid to late rounds. And like Banaka is probably one of their top prospects right now. And he was a 4th round pick, I think, last year. Like, same with Kiviharu. Like, he was a later throw, like guys that maybe should have gone higher but didn't. But so they have some pieces with that, and I think you trust that they'll continue to make those, whether it's their first picks in the 3rd round or the 1st round, like they'll find some value. So let's get into the names. So what I did was I kind of took the ones that I saw multiple times, or that I thought would be like that piqued my interest personally, selfishly. By far, I think that the two that I saw the most were Artemi Panarin and Ryan O'Reilly. Those are probably the top two that I saw, like probably over 50% of the ones were mentioning one of those two. So let's start there. On screen, I have a whole list. So for those listening, basically just shows the player, what position he plays, age, contract, and then very basic goals, assist points. And then to me, important stat, 5v5 expected goal share from Natural Stat Trick. So Panarin, I think, got off to a little bit of a slow start, but cooking now, 46 games, 16 goals, 34 assists, 50 points. You look at his analytical profile, and like his numbers have actually improved this year, like in terms of like his defensive numbers, which on a bad team is pretty solid for him. Obviously has a connection with Kirill Kaprizov, with them both being Russians, and has controlled the 51% of his expected goal shares on a very up and down New York team. So like, he's obviously the big fish, huge contract, $11.64 million on that thing. It does expire at the end of this year. But if you're the Wild, if you think you can sign him in free agency this summer, are you really going to go and pay a big chunk that somebody else might to get him as a rental? That's the part that I don't know. And beyond that
honestly,
that
Brett, he's a rental for this team. If he was a center, it'd be different. He's a rental. So if they're going for him, they're going to have to give a lot and just hope that Boldy will play center. I don't know.
Yeah. So that's where I'm like a little hesitant, is like, I just don't know if they have the assets right now and want to trade him. So so he's one there. I'll talk about O'Reilly next. I have this ordered, but I think just by points on the season. But like, I think this is, to me, the most clear and obvious fit out there. So 33 years old, plays center, $4.5 million. And his contract actually expires after next season. So similar to Quinn Hughes, they'd have him for the rest of this season, plus one more year next year. And like, despite being 33, he's still chugging along this year. 13 goals, 26 assists, 39 points in 46 games, rocking a 53.95 expected goal share. He's winning 56.2% of his faceoffs, and he's been really good on the PK, like not just this year, but like his whole career. Like, you look at areas like, where do we need to fill holes? Top 6 center, guy that can win faceoffs, play the penalty kill, play our second power play, and add another scoring element to our top 6. Like, Ryan O'Reilly, and like proven winner, veteran voice, like guy that's been there, done that. Like, he literally checks every single box. He doesn't have a full no move clause, but from the reports I've read and heard from people, including Russo, like Nashville's essentially going to treat it in the way that he does. Like, you're going to get a pick where you want to go. And it sounds like he kind of wants to stick things out for a little while. But I think, like, from the research that I've done today, like, my personal opinions, like, I think he's the best possible fit in terms of checking all the boxes, at least for this season and next. Like, I think the window's open now, and that's a perfect guy to add to the roster.
Dude, me too. Because then it gives them some time. Again, summer, well, just like playoffs, summer, start of next season, to still be able to find that big fish.
And like, I think like he's gonna probably cost, like, he might cost you a first and a prospect. Like, he's still gonna cost you a hefty price, but I don't think it's gonna be like it's not gonna be a Quinn Hughes
for him.
Yeah, it's not gonna be a Quinn Hughes type of price.
Dude, at this point, like, I'm convinced that if the Wild are gonna get the top guy, and I hope they do. Kind of, I hope if they, sorry, I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say that I hope they do, but I hope that if they do, it's a guy that's like, okay, we're fine giving away that package because we're getting this guy in return. The same reaction we had to Quinn Hughes coming over, right? So yeah, I mean, and I don't think Ryan O'Reilly is really slowed down much at all. Like, he kind of reminds me of Pavelski, man. Like, he's gonna be putting up friggin' point per game seasons until he's 38 and retires. Like, yeah, and he's only 30. I know there's a lot of wear and tear. But like, we don't really, even coming back from injury, it doesn't take him a few games to get back into it. It's like he's, right back in the mix. So,
yeah. So I don't really have like a certain direction I want to go next. I think I'll talk about kind of like my next favorite targets of names that were brought up. Those being Charlie Coyle, who used to play for the Wild, obviously. And then also probably one of my favorites on this list being Nick Schmaltz. Out of Utah. I'll start with him. So he's 29 years old, so a player a little more kind of still in his prime years. On expiring deal this year at $5.85 million, 41 points in 47 games, and a 56.6% expected goal share on the year on that Utah team. A player I've always really liked. Thought he's really good with Chicago. I thought in the years at Arizona was really bad. Like, he was always kind of a standout player. On Utah's first line right now, I think like the question mark for me here is Utah is currently sitting in a wild card spot. Like, obviously they're a tier behind kind of the big three in the Central, but you look at Nashville's probably going to be selling. St. Louis is obviously selling. Chicago's dealing with injuries and isn't probably a playoff team at this juncture. Like, and the Jets are, they've lost so much ground. Like, do they have enough to get back in there? So if you're Utah looking at kind of your situation, like, you're kind of this island number 4 team at this point. Like, you're more so probably worried about the Pacific and whether or not you think you can hold that wild card over. I think right now LA is the team they're kind of battling with. I think Anaheim's in that mix as well. So I think it's, do you believe you can out-duel those teams? And do you think like, hey, do we think you can get Nick Schmaltz back next year? Like, if they're in kind of that team where it's like they're probably 1-2 pieces away. But you have Logan Cooley. You have Barrett Hayton, who's another guy I have on this list as an RFA who's been a pretty pretty solid middle six guy for them as well. So that's where I don't know if he's necessarily available. Also, guy good on the penalty kill. He's been consistent through his career. Not as good in face-off circle, 46.7%, but I just don't know if Utah's going to be selling.
And I feel like Schmaltz is probably going to want term on his contract here. So I just don't know if the Wild go in on him, then it's like, hey, you're going to have to do more work now to bring in that big fish. And I don't think Schmaltz.
Well, unless he's the one you're extending and you're rolling with Eriksson, Schmaltz, you're off. Like, I think that's fine.
Does Hughes want to stay for that though?
Like he's probably not the true like bona fide number one center, but I think he is the prototypical number two. I think.
Yeah, no, he's so good. And he's gone under the radar for so long because Arizona, and really has kind of broken out the last 2 years as like, a bona fide top six guy.
And the other one that I brought up that was interesting to me was Charlie Coyle, back in Columbus. So he's on an expiring deal this year, $5.25 million. 29 points in 46 games, 54.5% expected goal share on the year. Like, I think he's really been trending up kind of since he got out of San Jose in his stints with Boston, Colorado, now Columbus, like playing a pretty big role for those teams, doing it well. Can play center of the wing. Memory serves, is he a right shot potentially too? He's a guy that I like, but again, Columbus, I think, is kind of in that similar situation to Utah where like the Eastern Conference is so wide open and fluctuating every day. Like they have some really good pieces in place there. Like which direction do they want to go in terms of like buying, selling, standing pat, seeing how things go? But him, and then also on that same team, Boone Jenner, who I think is kind of their second line center. Also interesting to me as well at age 32, $3.75 million deal expiring at the end of this year. 23 points in 32 games, 50.5% expected goal share, 53.4%. In the faceoff dot, he's played a little bit on the wing. I think the big question mark for me there is he's often been injured. I don't think he's played an 82 game season since like 2014. Like it's been a long time since he's been healthy. And even on this year, 32 out of 47 games that Columbus, I think, has played. So that's kind of like my next flight of guys after O'Reilly. But again, it's just, I don't know if any of them are potentially available. Jenner, I think, might be, but again, that injury concern and like how much does that move the needle? Like, I think it's an upgrade over what they have, but I don't know if it's a needle moving upgrade.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, at the end of the day too, like if they somehow swindle Panarin in here on a crazy deal, I don't want to say hometown deal, but Kaprizov deal of an extension, then whatever. You can make do with elite wingers and two great goaltenders. Let's ride, baby. But like, it's so be a GM unrealistic, like be a GM in the game unrealistic that he's just not.
I'm reading Justin's comment. That's a good one.
I literally did nothing when he was with Minnesota for the first time. That is true. I was teasing too. Kramer said he didn't quite get over the hump with some of these other teams, but definitely got over the hump when he crashed his car into a Tim Hortons. But
yeah, I think like another player that I wanted to talk about that I like is like not necessarily like this is kind of if the Wild like go big game hunting and they just get outbid or they don't find a good fit, but they still want to like upgrade. Blake Coleman is the one I really like out of Calgary. 34 games played this season, $4.9 million left on his deal, that goes through 2027. So again, you get him for the rest of this season, plus next 13 goals, 8 assists, 21 points in 44 games.
Yeah, he's a horse. Like he plays tough, and he always is just a gamer out there. May not be the fastest guy, but like, I like Blake Coleman.
54.5% expected goal share, like really good two-way player. Not a super like impactful special teams player, but like plays both, but more of just like a middle of the road type. But
he's literally one of the only guys who are scoring in Calgary too right now, which is insane.
Yeah. And I think like he to me like feels like a perfect fit alongside like a Boldy and Eriksson Ek. Like I love Johansson, obviously what he's done this season, but I do think we've started to, I mean, maybe he's another guy that's kind of playing through an injury, but I think he's definitely cooled off. Like he was near like a point per game there for a little while. I think, I don't know what his recent stretch is, but I think he's starting to cool off a bit where, if you can slot him into a third line with a Yurov, a Hartman, and a Tarasenko, like some combination of those guys, I think that like that's an upgrade there. So he's a guy I think would just stylistically, I think he just fits kind of what type of hockey that Eriksson and Boldy play, kind of that strong two-way, hard on the forecheck, but still some skill there. So he's another kind of option I have on my radar, and I know it's a guy that I think is actively being shopped by Calgary. So some of the other names that were brought up, Evgeny Malkin, if for some reason him and Crosby decide that they want out, I'm sure someone that will get a call. Pavel Zacha in Boston, but again, much like the Utah guys, like I think Boston's leading their division, so I'm not really sure that they're going to be sellers. Braden Shen in St. Louis, who just doesn't really interest me. I think he's just a guy past his prime. I think he's more of what they already have and not what they need. And then we talked a little bit about Barrett Hayton as well in Utah there. RFA after this season, but I'm not sure he's a younger player, 25 years old, but driven play pretty well, but the points haven't come around yet. And again, he's a guy I wonder, is this more of like a middle sixer? Is he a needle mover? I don't know. Other names that were brought up to me, Robert Thomas, Jordan Kyrou. I didn't deep dive into them because I just wasn't sure if the Wild have the price it's going to take to acquire those guys. If Jack Hughes becomes available, same with all these guys. Hughes, if he's available, Tage Thompson, Alex Tuck, those guys are all like, yeah, they're interesting, but can they afford them? Are they even available? Kind of questions there.
I know, it's like another guy who's like just a name I'm throwing out there, probably not available at all, but like, like Gabe Velarde sort of thing. Like that's another guy who I'm like, God, like that would be such a perfect type of center to bring in, a guy who's like just under 30, who's finally not injured. Yeah, but I kind of like how there's not like a few obvious picks, because we're just going to get surprised again when Billy Guerin makes his move.
Oh, and then Claude Giroux, who I had on my other list there. But again, Ottawa's kind of in that Utah situation where like,
and I think Giroux's probably just going to stay in Ottawa until he retires.
That's what I've heard too. I think he's kind of in that Johansson area. Was like, I want to keep playing, but it's going to be with this team, and I don't really want to go anywhere else. Yeah,
well, Johansson's going to chase the money next year. Like some team is going to give him.
I don't
something.
think so. I think he signs the Wild again, or he's done.
You don't think one team's going to pay him at least like $2 million for a year? If he's going to put up 60 points this year.
No team. I hope there's no.
Dude, Gustav Nyquist got a fucking contract this year.
I don't think it's gonna happen. I don't think he wants to go anywhere else. Like that was because he was either gonna this year he could have signed anywhere, but he said I'm either going to Minnesota or I'm going.
Yeah, but this year he wasn't. 60 points changes everything. 60 points changes everything.
I think if anything is
there's fighters out there who will negotiate their extensions too off winning decisions, and then somehow they get in one fight they get a knockout, and somehow everyone's calling. Somehow sponsors are calling. No,
I think it'll be just like this year where he might sign, but he like maybe expecting like, hey, I'm probably going to start third or fourth line, and I might get moved up in the case of an injury. But
I could see him go. I could see the Capitals giving him $2 million or like $1.5 million, and he go back there for a year.
I don't see it, but that's it. We'll see how he finishes the season. A lot could change before then too. So, I think that basically covers. Is there any other players? I kind of ran through those a lot there.
And honestly, until post Olympics, I probably won't have like a list myself, because I think that there's going to be a shakeup. There's going to be some injuries. Other teams are probably going to make moves right after as well. I think that few weeks before trade deadline are going to be, and I'm talking like the 4 weeks before trade deadline are going to be that's when we're going to really ramp things up. And again, not necessarily let the Wild like pressured to make anything at that point. Especially if they are continuing to win and aren't decimated by injury. I'm just, that's when I'll actually see if there's realistic guys available for this season anyways.
Right. So we'll see, but like obviously exciting to be a Wild fan and know that like, hey, the hope is to bring in another big fish. How we're going to do that and who that's going to be, we don't know, but that's the goal. Like as a Wild fan, that's exciting. So
something's going to happen, because we all know
they will do something.
Yeah. Quinn Hughes staying is now priority number one. So
the roster right now will not be the roster on night one of the playoffs. Let's put it that way. So finally here, before our next show, 4 Wild games. So 4 games in the next 6 nights, I believe, kicks off with the third and final game on this homestand against Winnipeg, 18-22-5 on the season, 3-5-2 in their last 10, but they have won 3 straight, but they have been a team that's struggled on the road this year, 7-13-2. So Wild kind of I think are 1-0-1 against them this season. Beat them last time, I believe, lost in overtime the first time despite pretty badly outplaying them. On Saturday, the Wild go into Buffalo, who is red hot, 24-16-4-0 on the season, 14-6-2 at home. I believe it came to a close, but they've rattled off, I think within the last month or so, they rattled off 10 straight. I think lost 1 or 2 and then won again. So they're red hot right now. Toronto, who suddenly turned things around, up next after that. On Monday, 23-16-7 on the year, 7-1-2 in their last 10. And they've been very good at home, 16-5-5. Just 5 regulation losses. I think that's one of the best marks of the Eastern Conference at home. And then Montreal, despite injury, 6-2-2 in their last 10, 26-14-7 on the year, in the second of back-to-backs there. So get to see Lane Hudson go up against Quinn Hughes. Should be a fun matchup there. So not a soft schedule by any means, playing some teams that are playing good hockey right now. Winnipeg, you hope to see a good response after kind of a dud in the Hughes Bowl on Monday night, but hopefully 2 days off, guys getting a little bit healthier. We'll see if Eriksson Ek is close to get back, or Bogosian, any of those types of players. But again, we've seen the Wild have tough schedules, and I feel like in the past it's kind of seeming to be when they've kind of rise to the occasion in some instances. But I think the goaltending's been a little shaky as of late. I think Kaprizov looked a little off, but we'll see if they can bounce back. But should be some fun games here before our show next week.
Yeah, I'll be live tomorrow covering the game on the channel as well, so come hang out for that one. And I got a weird feeling, and maybe I'm just being too hopeful, but I think it's one of those games where Yurov might step up a little bit because maybe some of the others are a little worn down, or still nursing something. And yeah, these are the type of games where some of the secondary guys, even though he's top 6 guy now, but you know what I mean, some of the secondary guys kind of have big games, and I don't know, I expect a good game from him.
Yeah, so should be going.
There you go, big show, guys. Holy,
yeah, probably one of the longest we've ever done.
Yeah, I think other than probably one of the early ones.
Yeah, we definitely had one, I think, last year that went hour 45, hour 50.
Yeah, I think that was the one where we did it in studio.
Yeah, when I was over.
Yeah.
I think it was something to do with I want to say it was something to do with 4 Nations, maybe.
Well, and this World Juniors took up all the time, so there you go.
International.
All right, guys.
That's on their topic. So.
All right. Well, it was good getting back to it, man, and we'll be back next week.
See you guys.